Hey, what is going on, Bulls and Bears? It is still Thursday, February 17th, 2022. A lot of news to report today. So I wanted to bring you the second update. We're going to talk about the markets. We're going to talk about banks going dark and bank outages. Tensions overseas causing some market fear and turbulence. And we're definitely seeing some heightened risk factors here. Even the FBI is coming out and warning people of more attempts for people getting into people's checking accounts and cyber events, things like that. So let's get started right here. All major indexes deep in the red today. Dow Jones down over 600 points. NASDAQ down over 400. The Russell and the S&P 500 similar, also down over 2% today. Now some people say that war is imminent over in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. Other people say that the fears are being overblown right now. Either way, the big message here is tread carefully in these markets or any investment. Look what we saw in 2020. We saw about a 40% sell-off in markets, near 40%. Of course, markets did recover since then. But if you're jumping in at these current market levels and then you have a big sell-off, how long is it going to take you to get your money back? And that's why I stress, everybody to be careful. And there's some people that are all in these markets, and that's pretty scary in my opinion. If you're all in and we do see a market correction, even if it's temporary, that means you don't have any money on the sidelines to buy at a better price. So if you see a correction, even though it might be a temporary dip, even though it may recover eventually, it's good to have some money on the side in case a better buying opportunity comes up. But you have to have balance. Having too much money on the sidelines means that you're getting eaten up by inflation. So either way, it's going to be painful and risky. That's why I try to be balanced, and I try to urge everyone to consider, being balanced in your portfolio and your investments. All right, now speaking of cash and having cash on the side to invest, let's talk about what's happening in Canada. So Canada is having a situation with the truckers where some people say that these truckers are freedom fighters. They're protesting for something good. Other people say they're severely disrupting the supply chains that they need to be dealt with. And we're seeing people that supported these truckers they're coming after those people. They're coming after their checking accounts, and there was an emergency declaration placed in Canada up there. And what we're seeing is some banks went dark, went down shortly after that emergency declaration. So many people are saying this is some sort of purposeful downage of the banks. All right, so whether it's an anonymous hacker, whether it's purposeful, either way, if you have your money tied up in the banks 100%, you don't have access to those funds. That's the key we want to talk about here. So protect yourself accordingly. If you think it can never happen here in the U.S., maybe you're right, and maybe the fears are overblown. But I would urge everyone to at least consider having some money out of the system, out of the banking system. Now, this happened with 5 major banks in Canada, and they were offline for several hours. So luckily for the people that have accounts at these banks, luckily the banks came back online. But what would these people have done if the banks didn't come back online? You see what I'm getting at here is you're at the mercy of a third party as far as you being able to survive in many cases. If your funds are 100% tied up in these banks and the banks go out, there's a bank holiday, there's a hack, whatever the case, you're going to be in big trouble. So yes, have some funds out of the system, have some assets out of the system. People still ask me, what I'm doing to prepare. I still continue to stack silver. I think at some point, this whole thing is going to snap. We're seeing a lot of crazy things happening right now, and these events and these situations are not just going to stop. Things are going to continue to get worse. You're going to see things in 2022. I have no doubt that we never thought we would see. Just like in the past couple years, we saw things happen that we thought we might never see, around the world, and in the U.S. included. And I continue to believe that we're going to see some very eye-opening things happen. And I think silver is going to play a big part in the next phase of this financial system. Now, some people say that's crazy, but look what else has happened again, and ask yourself, if things are just going to get better and everything's going to be fixed here with the current monetary system, the current financial system, or if you think there's going to be some big changes coming up here in the very, very near future. And if you think those changes are going to be the dollar recovering and the dollar saving itself or becoming a better value and not being devalued, then maybe you'll be in 100% dollars. But I continue to stack silver as much as possible. People think I'm a big gold investor. I barely have any gold. I have over 95% silver compared to gold as far as my metals holdings. People still ask me where I get it. Link down below. You get it at SD Bullion. That's where I get it. I've never had a problem. I buy some every few weeks. And you help out the channel by using that link down below. Just look down in the description of this video. I think one day we're going to wake up and it's going to be very difficult to even find silver because of what's going to happen here. And I can't tell you a timeline, but I do know at some point this entire fake monetary system is going to go undergo drastic changes. And I think we might even see the end of this current financial system as we know it today at some point. All right. Also, just have some currency out of the system. Have some dollars. Have some cash out of the system, out of the banks. The dollar is not going to go away overnight, so there's still going to be plenty of things to do with the dollar. However, having too many dollars at once, is a very it's a very risky thing considering the inflation that we're seeing. So you look at your money sitting in the bank, or even sitting in a shoebox somewhere under your mattress, and the purchasing power is getting deteriorated day by day by day. And the 40-year high inflation that we're seeing right now is just the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion. Now, as far as inflation goes, well, what does our great aunt here, Miss Yellen, has to say? Well, she has to say that inflation is not acceptable, but the recovery is on track. So here we go again, that word recovery. Recovery for who? We just talked about in a previous report how late rents are now skyrocketing once again. The last month that we looked at data, only 92% of households pay their rent on time. That number has dropped from 98% just a couple years ago. So who is the recovery for? You might want to ask yourself that. I think it's for mostly the top 1% and 2%. The top 10%, you could argue that as well. But the bottom 90%, most people going further into debt. Rents continuing to get worse as far as the on-time number of people paying rent on time, the amounts of debt, just people getting buried under larger and larger amounts of debt for the most part. So yeah, as far as recovery goes, you see those people out there buying larger and larger yachts. Well, that's who this recovery is helping the most, isn't it? Recent report here, new jobless claims just out. Unexpectedly, I'm not sure who would not expected this, but unexpectedly climbed to 248,000. Economists had expected 219,000. Well, even the people that are getting their jobs and not filing for unemployment, people that are keeping their jobs, I should say, are they making enough in their wages to keep up these rising costs? Well, definitely not. Just looking at the jobless number, the phony unemployment number, doesn't even tell you a big part of the picture of what's happening right now. We have stagnant wages, even wages that are rising, nowhere near keeping up with inflation. The real inflation they're telling us is 7%. It's actually much higher. It's between 15 and 20%, even more in some cities where you see rents skyrocket even more than 20%. The cost of a used automobile is now up 40% just since last year. But see, those things don't get counted. They don't get counted in the official inflation number. So we have to really, ask ourselves what the real inflation number is, and it's 20% plus for most people. Even if you're not buying a car, look at the cost of fuel. Again, up 50% or more in some areas. But yet that doesn't get counted in the official number. Why not? You might want to ask yourself that. Recent article here, CNBC, the Fed's Bullard says inflation could get out of control. Well, if it's not out of control already, what is he expecting? Is gas going to go up to $7, $8 a gallon on average? Now, this particular Fed president, Bullard, he's been more critical of the Fed's actions, saying the Fed needs to raise rates quicker and sooner. So he is very out of step with a lot of the other people there at the Fed, including the other presidents. And he says that action is needed now. Inflation's here now, yes. So why is the Fed waiting? And what's with the emergency meeting? What did they talk about? Why didn't they raise rates when inflation is here? What are they afraid of? Right? So obviously the Fed is afraid of something. Otherwise, they would be raising rates. They had an emergency meeting. Everyone sees inflation. The average person that doesn't even pay attention to the markets are now seeing inflation every day in their budgets. Their pocketbooks are feeling the pain. So if the Fed is afraid to raise rates, I think it's time to be concerned. I think it's time to start preparing for something big coming up here very, very soon. And there's a term that kind of gets thrown around a lot: prepare for the worst. There's another term: expect the unexpected. I expect big things to happen this year, and continue to prepare because the Fed's very afraid. Bullards out there warning inflation could get out of control. Things are likely to get worse. Invest accordingly, folks. Prepare accordingly. Hope you're all doing well. Keep stacking. Stay well. Peace. Big love, people. Thanks for being here. Bye.